With $315 million in revenue and a $2.1 billion valuation, you'd think the Chicago White Sox would be thriving. But last season, their EBITDA was negative $15 million, and the team's record has been one of the worst in baseball. After cutting payroll to roughly $75 million, they still face mounting losses and uncertain prospects. But here's the twist. Their most valuable asset this year isn't a player, it's the Pope of the Catholic Church. The White Sox are betting that this connection can change everything. So how did a Chicago baseball fan become the Vatican's leader? Robert Prevost's story starts on the gritty streets of Chicago's South Side. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, he was surrounded by people who lived and breathed White Sox baseball. For Prevost, the team wasn't just a source of entertainment, it was a part of his family's fabric, woven into daily life. He was the kind of fan who would memorize stats, follow every season, and wear his loyalty like a badge. The White Sox shaped his identity long before anyone imagined he'd be known by another name. But Prevost's path didn't lead to the pitcher's mound or the outfield. Early on, he felt a calling that went beyond the ballpark, a drive toward faith and service that would take him far from Chicago. He entered the priesthood, dedicating years to study and missionary work. His journey took him all the way to Peru, where he worked tirelessly in some of the most challenging communities, always carrying a piece of Chicago with him. Even as his responsibilities grew and his travels took him across continents, his devotion to the White Sox never wavered. That loyalty wasn't just talk. In 2005, when the White Sox broke their 88-year championship drought, Prevost was there for Game 1 of the World Series. He sat in Section 140, Row 19, Seat 2, a detail that's been confirmed by video footage. He wasn't in a luxury box or behind the scenes. He was right there with the fans, caught up in the emotion of a moment that defined a generation. This wasn't some casual fair-weather fandom. It was real, and it was part of who he was. Prevost's rise within the Catholic Church was steady and relentless. After years in Peru, he returned to Chicago for leadership roles, eventually making his way to the Vatican. Each step brought him closer to the heart of the global Catholic faith, but he never lost touch with his roots. Then on May 8, 2025, everything changed. Prevost was elected to succeed Pope Francis, making him Pope Leo XIV, the first American pope in 2,000 years. The news sent shockwaves through both the Catholic world and his hometown. Suddenly, the south side of Chicago and the Vatican were connected in a way nobody saw coming. This unlikely connection suddenly presented the White Sox with a rare marketing opportunity. For a franchise struggling with losses both on and off the field, the fact that the new pope was a lifelong fan wasn't just a quirky headline. It was a potential lifeline, a chance to turn a personal story into something much bigger. The team's leadership recognized that this was more than just good PR. It was a way to bring hope and attention to a fan base that desperately needed both. Now, with the world's eyes on them, the White Sox faced a decision. How do you honor the most influential fan in history without turning it into a gimmick? How do you make the most of this connection without alienating your core supporters? The next moves would require careful planning, creativity, and a willingness to try something no other team had ever attempted. When a baseball team finds itself setting a modern-era record for losses, like the White Sox did with their 41-21 season in 2024, traditional fixes don't cut it. The franchise was in freefall. Declining attendance, negative EBITDA, and a payroll set to drop even further meant the White Sox needed more than just a roster overhaul. They needed a story, something that could reignite hope and maybe even turn the tide. That's when the news broke. The new Pope, Leo XIV, was not only from Chicago's South Side, but a lifelong Sox fan. Suddenly, the team had an opportunity no one could have predicted. Instead of rushing to cash in, the White Sox moved with precision. Their first step was a personal gesture, sending a custom jersey and team hat straight to the Vatican. This wasn't about spectacle, it was about respect, and it set the tone for everything that followed. Then they made their next move at home. At Wright Field, they installed a graphic on a ballpark pillar marking Section 140, Row 119, Seat 2, the exact spot where Pope Leo XIV sat during Game 1 of the 2005 World Series. The installation featured a graphic of the Pope waving, along with a photo from the TV broadcast showing him with friends. This wasn't just a sticker on a seat, it became a focal point for fans and media, a real-world reminder that that the leader of the Catholic Church once cheered from those stands. With this physical tribute in place, the White Sox shifted their focus online. Their social media team amplified the story, posting photos of Pope Leo XIV in Sox gear at public events. On X, they posted, "Hey Chicago, he's a Sox fan." The message spread quickly, sparking excitement and positive coverage that reached far beyond the usual sports pages. Instead of a paid ad campaign, the team found itself at the center of a wave of earned media, with every post and picture reinforcing the connection between the Sox and their most famous fan. But the team didn't stop at gestures in social media. They worked with the Archdiocese of Chicago to create a moment that would resonate with the entire city. The White Sox hosted a special mass at Rate Field, selling out more than 30,000 seats. The event was emceed by Chicago Bulls announcer Chuck Swirsky and featured a 7.5-minute video message from Pope Leo XIV himself. The program included music from Leo's old high school choir and a musician from Peru, blending faith, community, and baseball in a way that felt genuine to the city and its people. For one night, the stadium wasn't just a ballpark, it was a place of hope and unity. Every move the White Sox made was about more than just publicity. The pillar installation gave fans a new story to share. The social media blitz brought national attention. The mass created a sense of belonging and pride, even in a losing season. In a year when the team had little to celebrate on the field, they found a way to offer their fans something bigger, a narrative of hope, perseverance, and identity. But while these moves generated headlines and goodwill, there's a bigger question hanging over all of it. What's the real value of an endorsement from someone who represents hope to billions, and does it for free? For a franchise facing relentless financial pressure, the numbers tell a stark story. The Chicago White Sox hold a $2.15 billion valuation, supported by $315 million in revenue, yet their 2024 EBITDA was $15 million. That means even with all that revenue coming in, the team spent more than it earned just to keep the lights on. Their debt-to-value ratio sits at 9%, and declining attendance has forced the front office to slash payroll to under $75 million, ranking them near the bottom of Major League Baseball. Even with new capital infusions from investor Justin Ishbia to pay down debt and keep operations afloat, the team's long-term financial health remains uncertain. The White Sox need more than just a balance sheet fix. They need a spark that money alone can't buy. Enter Pope Leo XIV. Unlike a typical celebrity endorsement, which can cost millions and is usually measured in short-term sales, the Pope's support is entirely different. There's no contract, no negotiation, and no fee. When the White Sox sent a pinstripe jersey and team hat to the Vatican, it wasn't a business transaction. It was a gesture rooted in genuine fandom, and that authenticity gives the connection a unique power. While sports teams often pay handsomely for stars like Michael Jordan to wear their gear or appear in ads, the Pope's support comes with no strings attached and no price tag. But what does this actually mean for the business side? Traditional sponsorships are about visibility and sales. You pay a celebrity, they hold up your product, and you hope the public pays attention. The Pope's connection, though, transforms the White Sox brand at a deeper level. It's about more than just headlines. It injects hope and resilience into a team that desperately needs both. The story resonates with fans on the South Side and beyond, providing a narrative that's impossible to manufacture. The impact is measurable, even if it doesn't show up immediately as a spike in ticket sales. The White Sox's connection to Pope Leo XIV has generated global coverage, from the Associated Press and Washington Post to ABC7 and outlets across Europe and Latin America. If the team had paid for that kind of exposure, it would have cost them millions. Instead, they've received a wave of earned media stories that reach people who might never have cared about the White Sox before. That kind of attention doesn't just boost morale, it strengthens community ties and builds a sense of pride that can turn casual fans into lifelong supporters. This emotional bond is valuable in ways that go beyond the usual business metrics. For a franchise struggling on the field and off, having the world's most recognizable religious leader as a true fan isn't just a lucky break. It's a way to reconnect with the city, energize the fan base, and create a foundation for future growth. The Pope's endorsement doesn't guarantee a winning season or instant financial turnaround, but it gives the White Sox something every brand wants, a story that people believe in. And that leads to a bigger question, one that goes beyond balance sheets and marketing budgets. The White Sox's response to adversity shows how an unorthodox fan connection can become a genuine business advantage. By embracing Pope Leo XIV's lifelong fandom and creating a visible tribute at Rate Field, the team has shifted the conversation from losses to loyalty. They're not just surviving a tough season, they're building a narrative that resonates with fans and sets a new standard for sports marketing. So could your team uncover a fan-driven strategy like this? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into sports marketing strategy, subscribe and hit the like button.